What if I told you that one of the most foundational texts in the world might be profoundly misunderstood, and not just by us today, but by the very first people who heard it? We're about to look at an idea that could completely change how we see the Quran. So let's just jump right in with a question that honestly sounds a little crazy at first. The Quran was revealed in Arabic to people who spoke Arabic, so of course they understood it, didn't they? Well, according to some really fascinating research from Dr. Hani over at the Marvelous Quran channel, the answer to that question is a surprising and pretty definitive no. He makes the case that the Arabs of the 7th century didn't actually grasp the full message, and this, it turns out, isn't some small detail. It's the key to everything. So how on earth is that possible? Well, the secret isn't in the language they spoke. That was absolutely Arabic. The secret is in something much more specific, a concept that linguists call locution, a very particular way of speaking and thinking that this community, it seems, had lost. To really get this, we first need to pull apart these two ideas and see the crucial difference between them: language versus locution. Okay, let's break this down. Think of language as an entire library. It's got every word, every grammar rule, every possible sentence you could ever make. It's huge. Locution, on the other hand, is like the specific set of books that one small community actually reads and talks about. It's their unique dialect, their inside jokes, their shared cultural code. So you can easily speak the same language as someone else but have a completely different locution. And here's the core idea from Dr. Hani. The Quran isn't just written in the Arabic language, it's written in a very specific Abrahamic locution. This is a preserved, ancient style of expression, a kind of divine vocabulary for monotheistic ideas that goes all the way back to Abraham. So while the Arabs spoke the language, they'd lost the specific locution. The Quran was talking to them in a way they could hear, but they just couldn't fully comprehend. Right, this might sound a bit abstract, so let's make it really practical. We're going to look at a key term from the Quran and see how this idea of locution just completely flips its meaning on its head. The word we're looking at is Al-A3raab. Now, for centuries, this word has been understood in a very, very specific way. But the question is, does that traditional understanding actually hold up when you use the Quran as its own dictionary? So traditionally, Al-A3raab gets translated as the Bedouins, the nomads living out in the desert. But Dr. Hani makes it crystal clear that inside the Quran's own locution, it simply means the Arabic speakers, and that is not a small difference. One is a specific nomadic group, the other is the entire linguistic population, including the sophisticated city dwellers in Mecca and Medina. And here's the kicker. The Quran itself gives us the proof. In the story of Joseph, when the text wants to talk about nomads, it uses a totally different word, al-Badu. This just raises a huge question, right? If the Quran has a specific word for Bedouins, why would it use al-Arab to mean the same thing, especially when it's being so critical of them? And that leads us to the real mystery. If the Quran is this clear, why did so many early commentators and translators push the Bedouins interpretation? Why go to all the trouble to hide the fact that the Quran was directly criticizing the Arabic speakers as a whole? Dr. Hani lays out 3 possible and frankly pretty sinister motivations. First, it was a way to cover up the Quran's direct critique of how resistant the Arabic-speaking community was to its message. Second, it helped justify the political and ethnic superiority of the Quraysh tribe by shifting all that criticism onto a different group. And third, and this is really disturbing, it was a subtle way to malign the Prophet Muhammad himself, since those same books often claim he learned his purest Arabic from, you guessed it, the Bedouins. Okay, let's try this key on another lock. We're going to use the exact same analytical tool on another foundational concept, and you'll see how it unlocks even deeper layers of meaning. Muslims are told to follow the Millat Ibrahim, the Millah of Abraham. For literally centuries, this has been a bedrock idea of the faith. But what if the way we understand that key word, Millah, has been wrong all along? The common translation for Millah is always religion or creed, but Dr. Hani points out something absolutely stunning. If you just look at how the Quran itself uses the word, Millah actually means compositional style or narration style. It's not about a set of beliefs. It's about a specific way of building a narrative and communicating ideas. And again, the proof is right there, baked into the Quran itself. In the longest verse in the entire book, the one about writing down a debt, the root verb for millah, which is yumnil, is used over and over. And its meaning is completely clear. It means to dictate.
as in to compose the text of the contract. It has zero to do with religion and everything to do with composition.
This just reframes the whole thing. The command to follow the Millat Ibrahim isn't just about practicing a certain faith. It's an instruction to adopt Abraham's compositional style, his narrative framework, his locutions, so that you can correctly understand the divine message. It's literally the key to interpretation.
So, when you put these pieces together, what you're left with is this incredibly powerful new lens for reading the scripture. It's a lens that sees the Quran as this perfectly preserved, self-contained linguistic system. This whole approach gives us a really clear method. First, you identify these key terms that have been traditionally defined for us. Second, you analyze how they're actually used inside the Quran's own context, especially in its stories. And third, when you do that, you unlock their original preserved meaning, a meaning that's free from any later historical or political spin. And what this reveals is a truly profound concept. The Quran is its own dictionary. The stories of the prophets, they aren't just moral tales. They are the very context that locks in the meaning of its most important words. This Abrahamic locution acts like a linguistic time capsule, protecting that divine vocabulary from being changed over time by human language. You know, the Quran even seems to tell us this directly. It says messengers are sent bilisan, in the locution of their people. The word it uses is lisan, which, as Dr. Hani shows, points to this specific way of speaking, not just the general language. It's sent in a way that people should have understood, if only they still had the key. When it comes down to it, seeing the Quran through this lens is just transformative. It offers a way to bypass centuries of later interpretation and actually engage with the text on its own terms, to read it with a kind of clarity and depth that was always there, waiting to be unlocked. Now, this is really just scratching the surface of a much deeper subject. So if this has sparked your curiosity and you want to dive into the full, in-depth analysis, Dr. Hani invites you to explore all of these concepts on the Marvelous Quran channel.